Welcome back to another episode of the Schmoofcast. You're here with Brett.
And Kristen.
And together we are the Schmoofs. We are your local Orlando theme park nerds who've lived here for a decade, who know every ins and outs of all the theme parks here, and we're going to share that knowledge with you.
At least we'll try.
Yeah. If you listen to some of our previous episodes, you've known that we are talked about doing a coast-to-coast battle. And previously we did an episode on the coast-to-coast battle of, Disney World versus Disneyland on Pirates of the Caribbean. Kristen, of course, is a West Coast girl.
Yeah.
I am the East Coast boy.
Boo.
So I think we're going to do another episode off a fun topic today. Again, yay.
Woo!
What attraction should we hit today? Or restaurant? Let's do Haunted Mansion. We did Pirates. Let's do Mansion. There's a lot of people
going with the classics.
The repetitive attractions, because a lot of people will tend to agree that Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean is better, but Disney World's Haunted Mansion is better than Disneyland's Haunted Mansion.
I disagree.
But everything has their pros and cons, so let's get into it. First off, the Haunted Mansion is an absolutely boring attraction on both coasts.
Get out. The door's right there. Go.
No. So they're very different. Even the two facades at World versus Land are they set this extreme different tone for the attractions.
Well, let's talk about, okay. I'm just going to put it out there for any of you that are listening to this being like, I've never even heard of the Haunted Mansion. We'll give a brief overview.
How have you never heard of the Haunted Mansion?
I don't know, okay? I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt.
There's going to be the one person on there being like, I have no idea what the Haunted Mansion is, but I love Pirates of the Caribbean.
So the idea, and this is the same for many, many mansions that Disney has created across, it is their take on what is a old-fashioned house of illusions with ghosts. That is the idea of the Haunted Mansion. It was actually originally idealized as if it was going to be a walkthrough of this house of illusions. And it just kind of evolved from there. And so that's what they've done for Disneyland and Disney World, Disneyland Paris. They've all kind of stuck to these ideas where you're going to see what are still very, very convincing and what have been adapted illusions. But yeah, so that's kind of where the starting point is for Haunted Mansions. Theming has been a great thing for the changes, or as you were just about to talk about, the facades, because of the fact that it pulls from two very different areas. Disneyland, their Haunted Mansion is going to be themed to kind of a southern plantation style mansion, and that's because it is in the section of the park that is New Orleans Square, because that makes sense. So it fits with the theming of the area, as opposed to here at Disney World,
where it's themed to a New England house.
Yes, an old-fashioned New England Gothic manor.
And it's very much it's in Liberty Square here, and Liberty Square is meant to resemble the original 13 colonies, the original America dating way back when. So it kind of fits into that old colonial northeastern type ordeal. Mm-hmm. But the facades couldn't be more different.
No, and they are very different. Even how you walk up to them, with the Disneyland facade, you actually do go through the front doors.
You walk in the door. You walk in the main door. That blew my mind the first day.
And which is hilarious because as the queue progresses, like you come through the main, the grand gates, if you will, and you're walking through the lawn, and you actually kind of can get up to the main door that way, but generally the line's longer than that, and you swoop around, and it takes you through kind of the pet cemetery and into the crypt area. But then you swing back around and you go through the front doors of the house because it's a house.
At Disney World, you don't do that at all. You stay to the bottom of the house and you approach it at an angle, so it always kind of is like overlooking the queue. It's always above you, looking down on you, giving you this very foreboding. It's there, and then you enter through the underside of it, the belly of the beast, and you walk into
Most people would call it the basement.
It's not, because it's not the basement. You walk into the foyer. There's no basement. And then...
No, it's just the belly of the beast.
It's the belly of the beast. It really is. And then this is where the two, the differences really start. They started outside, but I
think they started outside because, especially with a big thing that Disney World did a couple years ago. It's been longer than that now.
2007.
But they're interactive queues. So the graveyard or the cemetery, what is it called?
The extended graveyard, whatever you want to call it. It's
crypts.
It's a touch and play graveyard that's not really working during COVID times. So,
what's it called?
Mausoleum?
Maybe.
Yeah, whatever you're talking about. So we added that here at Disney World a while ago, and it kind of like just started the story before the Haunted Mansion, before you even enter it. So at both coasts, you enter the foyer, where the ghost host introduces you into the Haunted Mansion quick. Mm-hmm. At Disneyland, you don't really have much to look at in that room. You're just waiting. At Disney World, you see the ghost host, Master Gracie, decay into a skeleton as a portrait.
They're not the same.
I'm sorry.
Master Gracie is not the ghost host.
Okay. My bad. I'm not the mansion fanboy here.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, so in the Eddie Murphy movie, they are one and the same.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I haven't seen the Eddie Murphy movie.
You have never seen...
Not all the way through, no.
Okay, cool, awesome. We have something else to do tonight, friends, so we got to wrap this up right now. It's so bad, it's good, you'll enjoy it. We're going to do it later tonight. It's on Disney+. Anyway, so our foyer, you see...
What have I done?
Master Gracie, his portrait decay from a human to a skeleton over a dying fireplace. It's super awesome.
It's very Portrait of Dorian Gray.
What? Oh, the book.
The book.
Oh my god, I was like, what part of Haunted Mansion's that?
Well...
It's been a day, friends. And then you enter the stretching room, which this is a huge change between the two coasts.
I think this is a huge win for Disneyland, because I think that this is a very cool feature.
I don't think it changes. Operationally, it's very different on both coasts, but I think it plays out better at World than at Land.
I disagree.
So, if you've been to the Haunted Mansion, you're aware the stretching rooms, the room stretches. At Disney World, it stretches upward. At Disneyland, it is an elevator, and you go down.
It takes you down.
And at Disneyland, you go down because you need to go out where the show building is behind the railroad tracks. Mm-hmm. So you go down, and you need to walk through a hallway, which has the...
It's not a long hallway.
It's a very short hallway, but it's long enough. That's where Disneyland's Changing Portraits is. So you walk down the hallway with the storm at the left-hand side with the windows, and whenever the lightning hits, the portraits on the right-hand side change.
Which is interesting because of the fact that, here at Disney World, the stretching room stretches up. You go into a very similar foyer-esque space, mm-hmm. but instead of having the changing portraits...
We have the Sinister 11 portraits, actually. Which, yes. If you're unfamiliar with the Sinister 11, it's something I can't really explain over a voice medium. It's 11 different portraits of different...
It's caricatures of different prolific serial killers.
I don't want to say... Not all serial killers. Like, there's a sea captain. Jack the Ripper is one of them. There is a Dracula. There is a Catwoman.
Horror figures. There we go. That's
figures,
the word we're looking for. They're stylized versions of different iconic horror figures from all portions of history.
They previously, years ago, in the Disney World Haunted Mansion, they used to line the first show scene hallway after you're on the ride. And their eyes were hollowed out so that the eyes moved and watched you as you moved along the ride track. Since 2007, when they updated the attraction, they moved them out of that hallway, and now we have the changing portraits how Disneyland has them. In their walkway, we have them on the ride, but the Sinister 11 portraits were moved to the load area.
To the load.
Also in the Disneyland walkway, before you load, you have the moving busts.
Yes, you have the concave bus that follow you.
Yeah.
Kind of that ideal mold of how you're looking at it changes the perspective. So they look like they're following you that whole way. A lot of the funny thing is that this is something I will give to Disney World as opposed to Disneyland with a caveat.
Okay.
The load area at Disney World is better because of the fact that it is more cohesive, with the fact you still have the Sinister 11 and they've got the wallpaper on it and things like that. When you're at Disneyland's, it's just kind of a blank.
It's a big empty room.
It's just a big blank room.
But I like the idea behind it, because the original concept it was meant to be this like in between ground between like a netherworld of decay and a real house.
Right.
So you walk out of this hallway and you're in this big room, but you still are grounded with carpet on the floor, and there's some candelabras around you, and it's a very weird in-between type space.
Yes. It's just comparatively, you kind of, here you continue that creepy feel by having that, it feels like a hallway. Like when you're in load, it feels like there's two walls of the same hallway. When you are in Disneyland's load, it is so open and airy that it takes a little bit of that away. It takes kind of a little bit of that like, ooh, feeling away.
Yeah, it moves the claustrophobic feeling away that you're in a house.
Right.
And
but
then, okay, go
my
ahead.
caveat is that works out to Disneyland's advantage when they transform their Haunted Mansion.
For Haunted Mansion Holiday.
For Haunted Mansion Holiday.
So let me also say this, though, is that the Disneyland show building is a copy, well, I shouldn't say a copy, Paris copied the Disneyland show building and utilized all that entry space to their advantage.
Correct.
And they built this gigantic grand staircase with the storm happening out the back window, and Paris has an entirely different story than our Haunted Mansions. You follow a bride as this house becomes cursed and haunted. Mm-hmm. And she's on the stairs looking down at people boarding the ride vehicles. And it's a very... they use the space well. And at Disneyland, it's like, we're going to project this spooky blue light onto the wall.
Ooh.
Yeah. But I'll give you that. For Haunted Mansion Holiday, they have this gigantic diorama that comes up, moving pieces, and it's wild. It's all black light. We'll get into Haunted Mansion Holiday in a second.
Yeah, that's gonna caveat at the end of this.
But as of this point, Disney World takes off an entirely different spin before Disneyland even catches up. So you know how like Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland has like 300 million extra scenes. Disney World has 3 million extra scenes in Haunted Mansion.
Meh.
So we have the first scene you load, you go underneath a hallway, and there's a floating candelabra to the top.
So I have one problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
I have one problem with this, and that problem is that if you've been standing in the Florida sun for any period of time during the day, and then you get on this ride without having time for your eyes to adjust, you miss this entry scene completely. You do not see it. You will not notice the candelabra, any of that, because your eyes have not adjusted to the darkness, and you're just get nothing.
You're right. And then you kind of go down a hallway, which now has the changing portraits with the lightning strike.
And the blinding light.
Yeah, well, they're taking your Photopass picture now because everything needs a picture from Photopass.
So I'm going to be 100% honest with you. We do Haunted Mansion regularly enough for me to have it memorized. We do not do it regularly enough for me to remember to close my eyes at that point. I've been, literally the last 2 times we've done this, I was caught unaware by the blinding flash.
I have the Photopass picture to prove it.
Legitimately, I look so confused and startled. But I spent the rest of both of those rides not being able to see anything. Because I just had, like, that ring negative vision of that flash.
I mean, the same thing in Pirates of the Caribbean with our flash before the drop.
But at least in Pirates, I remember. I forget Haunted Mansion for some reason every time, and then it's just like, huh.
And then
it's a really unfortunate place for a Photopass.
It shouldn't be in a dark, whatever. It's not going to go away at this point. The next thing we have up at World is the library, which has our moving busts, and it has a rocking chair in there. It's rocking by itself, and a ladder going up on a bookshelf, and books that are moving by themselves. It's a very ghost-like appearance. So this is a scene that Disneyland does not have, which is cool. It's cool we have something exclusive to us. And the next 3 scenes are exclusive to World as well. We have a conservatory with a gentleman playing a piano.
Disneyland have that?
No, they have it in the attic. It's a very different look than ours is. Same idea, very different look. Disneyland's looks cooler in the attic, honestly. Yeah, our gentleman is playing the he's playing the Grim Grinning Ghosts, little by little.
Ding.
It's a little terrifying. It's a little creepy. Then you start going up the stairs, and we have the Winchester Stairs, as we call them, which are the upside down and sideways stairs, and there's footprints doors that go to nowhere. The entire room is mirrored, so it looks kind of like Escher's Keep, if you've ever seen that optical illusion, that art piece. And
it's actually inspired by the Winchester home.
Yep.
Of
from the Winchester rifles, the heirloom to the rifles.
It was the family that made the rifles, and one of their daughters essentially thought that their family had been cursed by all of the people that had been killed by the Winchester rifle. So for their home, she started making essentially traps for ghosts, stairways that would lead nowhere, doors that would open
and drop from 30 or 40 feet.
Yeah, from the third floor, just leading nowhere,
making rooms and sealing them off entirely, crazy mazes.
So it's very much reminiscent of that, and it's a fun little cool haunted house thing that if you know the reference, you're like, oh wow, someone really thought about that. If you don't know the reference, it's creepy enough and fits in well enough for it to work. I mean, you don't have to know, but knowing where it comes from and knowing the footsteps, and then when they get to essentially a pathway that ends, they just are released type concept is pretty cool.
And then we go through another hallway which has a bunch of creepy eyes that are slowly moving. And then as it goes from dark to a bit lighter, you see it's actually the creepy wallpaper that has the eyes on it of the hallway of doors. And this is where the similarities to Disneyland pick back up.
Correct.
So the first scene in Disneyland, you go up a stairwell in this darkness, and the first scene you see is you turn and you see the endless hallway in front of you, and then you continue on with the rest of the hallway of doors. And that's Disney World too. Both of them are at this point, they're nearly identical.
Yes, yeah, they're pretty much identical from this point. The biggest difference is the attic is a big difference.
I would say the attic is going to be the next pickup change here, because not only Disneyland, it feels more quaint at Disneyland, but they also have the Hatbox Ghost.
They do have the Hatbox Ghost, which is a really interesting story in terms of how he's there and why he's there. And it was considered a legend that they were ever going to make this Hatbox Ghost, with the idea that his face would show up on his body and then end up in the Hatbox, and it was going to be this big illusion. And it kind of got lost to time.
Well, they never got it
never got it to work.
They never got it to work. It didn't look good enough to enter the Haunted Mansion, so it never appeared.
But then from there, it kind of got lost to time, and then people were like, well, they were going to do this, and everyone started being like, nah, they weren't going to do that. And then a photo popped up from the archive of...
It wasn't even the archive. It was some random person.
Some random person is like, no, I have a photo of the prototype installed. And that kind of led to a resurgence of the Hatbox Ghost, and how the urban legend influenced
a lot of merchandise.
Change. A lot of merchandise that was well bought, and then that merchandise really reflected a change in the attraction, because they found out that they had the technology now to make it work.
And it works well.
It works well. He's terrifying.
For the 60th anniversary of Disneyland, they teased some changes to Matterhorn and Haunted Mansion, and then all of a sudden, boom, Hatbox
Ghost. It's now a reality. We're not just all crazy people. Well, at least not because of that.
Yeah, so I want him over here at our place too.
But he wouldn't work here.
I don't care. I want him. He's so cool.
I don't care.
And then the graveyard, very similar.
I think
the biggest change is the pop-up ghosts.
the pop-up ghosts, yeah.
Ours are, they pop up from the ground. Our pop-up ghosts at Walt Disney World. Mm-hmm. At Disneyland, they're attached to strings to the ceiling, and it's kind of just little like skulls that pop up super quick.
Woo!
Ours are more like ghouls or zombies. It's weird.
Yeah, the ones here are kind of like zombies. It's very odd. Before we get to the end, or I guess
continuing forward past the graveyard, the next biggest change is the hitchhiking ghosts. So when we had our refurbishment at Walt Disney World in 2007, they actually changed the hitchhiking ghosts to these animated figures. It was no longer a physical prop.
It was not 2007.
Was it not 2007? I keep saying 2007. I really don't know when it is.
You keep saying that, and I really don't believe you, because we were both here when these things happened.
Well, when they changed the hitchhiking ghost and they changed the attic scene and all that, it was...
Right, but you said the cemetery, too, was also 2007, and that's not true.
The cemetery? What in the cemetery?
When they made the interactive queue things.
Oh, yeah. No, that was 2000... No, the interactive queue was much after. I'm sorry. The interactive queue was during our... Well, after we've been living here for a while. That was like 2011?
Yes, it was.
So interactive queue 2011. 2007 was the change for our attic bride, the hitchhiking ghost at the end, and the Winchester stairwell. Big changes. The queue was different. My apologies on that end. I don't know my dates.
But the hitchhiking ghosts were changed in 2011. They weren't changed in 2007.
Were they 2011? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because they were static figures.
Matched up to the movement of the vehicle.
They were matched up to the movement of the vehicle, and then they moved to the more projection style with them, where they were suddenly interacting with you.
Which I think is absolute garbage.
I do miss the old ones. I think it was really interesting for the hot minute that it was on when they were actually doing Magic Band reading.
Where they were saying they're going to follow you home, or they have like a map to your hometown.
Yeah, and it was like follow you home, like follow you to, and they'd pull out like a map of Scranton, I don't know, like wherever your hometown was.
They put a tombstone of Here Lies Brett in it. And it was like, it was funny. Like that was fun. The regular hitchhiking ghosts suck.
So that's the big difference, is that Disneyland still has the static figures.
Which I like a lot better.
I do as well. And then as you're exiting, it's a big change.
So to finish off the ride at Walt Disney World, you go up a little hallway with the mausoleum on your left-hand side and see Little Yoda. The vehicles make an incline upward back to the unload. And at Disneyland, right past the hitchhiking ghosts, you turn your vehicle and you get out. You're right there.
You're right there.
And then you hit a speed ramp that inclines upward. You go past Little Yoda out to the exit. Mm-hmm. I think that's annoying.
Oh, I really enjoy it.
I think that's annoying. Because at World, you're back on level ground. You just keep walking forward. Like it's a fluid experience. You're on level ground to level ground. The elevation changes only happen on the ride.
I enjoy the fact that you go up, because I think it gives you time to kind of process and actually feel like it's an exit of an attraction. So you have closure, as opposed to the Disney World experience where you're just spit out at the pet cemetery.
Yeah, it's going to drop you there. It's like, have fun, have a good day, bye.
Yeah. So I feel like when you're going up the incline, it is slower or faster, depending on if you don't want to walk it. But having Leota there is kind of your ending bit. It gives you time to process and gives closure. So I like it.
It's okay to be wrong.
I'm not. But there's so many things about these particular attractions that I love. Is if you are a fan of them, there are so many hilarious things that take place within these attractions, like little things. And both Disney World and Disneyland have their own little like pieces of that, which I think are really entertaining. Disneyland's by far the funniest thing that is in the Disneyland Haunted Mansion that I giggle every time I see it, which is funny for me. When you're going through the ballroom scene, you'll notice when you get like 2/3 of the way through, there's a spider that's kind of just hanging there between the pillars. And you're like, oh, well, that's creepy. It's a giant spider with a web. And the reason for this is actually really entertaining, because if you aren't aware, that's an illusion, obviously, with the ghosts that show up in the ballroom. And the way that that's done is by a highly reflective piece of glass with strong lights on those figures. But that glass is directly in front of you. So it is there. And they had an incident where one of those pieces of glass was cracked.
Way back when. Urban legend says what was it, a BB gun or something? I have no idea. I think urban legend says it was a BB gun. Somebody snuck a BB gun into the park and shot at their own reflection. They were trying to shoot a ghost or something.
I don't believe that, but if that's the urban legend, whatever.
It's now a spooter.
However, so that giant piece of glass had a crack in it. So Disney being Disney, they're like, all right, well, we're going to try and fix it. So they realized that they had to special commission this glass for the reflectivity level and all of the things in the composition of it. They had to special order it. And obviously, these are seamless pieces. Like, those are large, seamless pieces of glass. So it took quite a while to figure out how to do that and like what they were going to do, to the point that they figured it out. They got it done. They got it ordered. They get this giant piece of glass and they realize they can't get it into the building because there was literally no access point.
They sealed the roof in, man.
They sealed the roof in. There was literally no way for them to get this giant piece of glass into the Haunted Mansion. So then, one of the Imagineers was like, well, why don't we just make it a spider web? Like, we can just put, it's a crack. It's got, like, those spider features on it. So they're like, all right, fine, we're going to do that. We'll store the glass for now. We'll figure it out later. So they send this giant pane of glass to their warehouse. And they contact the warehouse, and they're like, we don't know what you're going to do with it. Like, we don't know where you're going to store it, but we got a giant pane of glass. And apparently the warehouse told the Imagineers, oh, don't worry, we'll just put it with the other one we have in the back. Mm-hmm. Because they'd already ordered one previously when they were making the Haunted Mansion. They made an extra that people just forgot about, apparently. So they had to go through this whole process. But now there's two just giant panes of reflective glass somewhere in a Disney warehouse. At least that's the urban legend. I don't know if any of that is true.
I would like to think
I want to
true.
believe it is, because every time I see that spider, it makes me laugh for the brilliant minds that figured out how they could make a replica that didn't think to figure out or to check how they were going to get it in.
Over at Disney World, we have our own urban legend, though. And this actually dates back to God knows how long. At the exit to the Haunted Mansion, there used to be a ring in the pavement, a little ring that it was from a old stanchion that was in the ground. It was cemented into the ground, that was severed off at a point, and things were changed over the years, and it was kind of forgotten about. The urban legend started that the bride threw her wedding ring, out from the attic from above, and it landed in the pavement, and it's been cemented into the pavement down below. Mm-hmm. So that was just the legend for a long time. When they refurbished it for the 2011 outside graveyard, they actually removed the ring from the exit. And everybody was like, oh my God, how dare they? How dare they do this to us? Well, they put a real ring in the ground in the new interactive graveyard. Mm-hmm. To continue that urban legend. It was something that started that the fans enjoyed, that it was always this thing of like, is it real? Who knows? We're not sure. Did Disney do it or did it just happen? But now it's an urban legend turned to a real set and prop piece.
I think it's funny how much of Haunted Mansion has become that. To the point that even the Hitchhiking Ghost, when they were made, they didn't have names.
Yeah, all the names that they have were all fan names given to them. They were all
fan names that were given to them that have since been embraced by Disney, and they are official now.
Phineas, Ezra, and Gus.
But yeah, they started off as fan names. Like, they had been given to them by fans of the attraction. And I think there's a lot of things within Haunted Mansion in and of itself that really do pull heavily from the fan base and listens to the fan base. And that is what really makes the best part of Haunted Mansion Holiday, is that it brings in something that fans were also really interested in. Well, in such an interesting way.
It makes sense to bring Nightmare Before Christmas to the Haunted Mansion. As much as people will fight me that they hate that the Haunted Mansion gets changed over to this cartoon, it's so much fun. It's so cool.
It's very Disneyland.
It's so Disneyland. And it's a way to update the attraction to make it look more modern for a little bit of time. It's a full-on Christmas ride that works during Halloween and Christmas. Mm-hmm. I wish it was permanent.
I do not wish it was permanent. I think that it's nice to be able to see both of them. I really enjoy Haunted Mansion Holiday, which, for those of you that have no idea what we're talking about, for a couple months a year, for many, many years now, Disneyland actually will refurbish or overlay their Haunted Mansion with the Nightmare Before Christmas. So it covers their Halloween season through their holiday season. Usually it's about like August to January, like late August is when they are closed.
They'll take it down late August, beginning of September. It'll be up by mid-September.
Yeah, it's up by mid-September, and then it's usually taken down the first to second week in January, mm-hmm. where it's, again, just they're removing that overlay. So you have the ability to see the original Haunted Mansion, but then you also have the ability to see how they've input all of these characters. They change all of the scenes. Even the scenes that are the same, like the corridor of doors, they suddenly have different characters in there, like a man eating wreath, and all of these things. And they've changed the narration. They've really embraced a lot of the fun of Haunted Mansion with it. And I think it's great. I love it. It's highly recommend. I think it is the best version of Mansion in the States.
I wish we got it here. That's my only complaint about it, is that I wish we had it here.
This is another one of those urban legends that I think, this one I 100% believe, because it makes sense to me on a business level. So when they were making it, after they made it for Disneyland, mm-hmm.
They
did look at making a Haunted Mansion Holiday type thing here at Disney World.
Well, it's easier to make two of one thing at once.
Correct.
Then go back and make a second.
And so what they did is they actually they did what most businesses would do, and they're looking to make a giant change, and they surveyed their guests. So when you guys see those Disney researchers, if you want an impact in what happens at Disney World, say yes to their surveys. Like, they're trying to get information to see what people think about certain things. And this particular one was, they asked people, would you enjoy seeing this at Disney World? And according to this urban legend, a great many of the international guests that came here that took these surveys said no. They wanted to see it in its original form because this is the once-in-a-lifetime vacation. It's not the place that, like Disneyland, they really rely on those annual pass holders or consistent visits. Here at Disney World, it's more of that, I'm just going this once, or I'm going once every Disney 10 vacation. Years. And I want to be able to experience it the way that my parents experienced it, or the way my grandparents experienced it. So it's just a very different idea that the guests at Disney World look for. So because of that, they actually cut it. They decided that they weren't going to do it here, and therefore we don't have it.
But Tokyo does.
Tokyo does, yes.
And Tokyo is the exact same facade building. Everything at Tokyo is nearly identical to Walt Disney World.
So that's not to say that they couldn't have done it. It's definitely more of a
telling sign that they did try to do it, and then we're just like, screw it, Tokyo, do you want this? Here you go, have fun.
No, that's why I said it's like, I fully believe that urban legend, that they were going to do it here, but they had to listen to these guests. Because these are the people that, when you make that kind of change, as we talked about previously, when we talked about, like, untouchable attractions.
Haunted Mansion is not untouchable. It is irreplaceable.
It is irreplaceable. But I think that it is definitely something that can't be altered from its original theme here at Walt Disney World. I don't think that's true of every mansion by far, but I do think here at Walt Disney World, it really was pushed with guests that, no, I want to see it the way that it's always been.
Which makes sense, and I can't really fault them for that.
So I think it's just a different... I don't know if I would say that one mansion is better than the other mansion.
If I could take bits and pieces from the two and combine them into one ultimate Haunted Mansion, I would.
Then you'd have Hong Kong. No,
Mystic Manor.
Not even remotely. Mystic Manor's not the same. It is not even a Haunted Mansion. That was a joke.
It's a different kind of spooky. We can discuss Mystic Manor at a different time, but
yeah, we'll discuss Mystic Manor and Phantom Manor.
There's a reason why Hong
time.
Kong and Shanghai don't have the Haunted Mansion is because of, from what I've been told at least, I'm very unsure if this is true or not, but the Chinese market doesn't consider ghosts to be scary. You know, that's more of an ancestral thing, and it's not
correct. It's just a very different idea in terms of what a spirit realm means within that culture.
Which is why Mystic Manor was the idea not ghost or haunted or possessed, but it was a magic music box turning inanimate objects to life, which is a more unnerving approach to things than, oh, this house is haunted.
Yeah, it's just a very big cultural difference, which I think is great. I think that the fact that they've recognized those things and the fact that they have adapted, not so that they don't have a similar style, so they don't have what we consider a mansion-style attraction. I think it's great that they've adapted it to the world that it lives in. And I think that's true of Phantom Manor as well, is just like we talked about at the very, very beginning of this, of being in theme with the land around them.
It's in Frontierland there.
Yeah, Phantom Manor is in Frontierland, which means it has a very different idea and ideology of what that storyline had to be to go with that. So we'll talk about those at another time. We'll get into Disney International at some point.
We have an entire episode planned for discussions of overall stories and themes of attractions and what works well and what doesn't and all of that above.
Yeah, because I think that's fascinating. I think things like... and let us know if you think this is fascinating, because we're all for that. But we're looking to discuss something that is kind of the attraction experience from entry to exit. And how that looks, and what that looks like, and what it means. What does it mean?
Yeah, because things have adapted themselves. From the 50s to now, things are much different.
So, but that's, I don't know. We can't claim a winner here. There
is no winner. The winner is overall Haunted Mansion Holiday.
Haunted Mansion Holiday.
Is the best. It really is.
That's true.
But,
all right. So Disneyland wins again!
Nah, get out of here. The overall regular Haunted Mansion world has better. But there's so much about Disneyland that you can't help but love. And that's the issue with Disneyland. How dare they?
Plain full stop. That's the issue with Disneyland.
Yeah. But that about wraps it up for the Haunted Mansion battle here, friends. Thanks for listening in. If you want to tag us on any of our social medias, we are at the Schmoofs. SCHMOOFS.
Hey, that's us.
That's us, yep. Hit us on Instagram. Hit us on Twitter. Hit me, Brett, at Schmoofy on Twitter. I'm out there. Prepare for some snarky comments and some attitude sometimes, but...
So much sarcasm.
That's there. But I think that about wraps it up for the evening. Like Kristen said, let us know how you feel about the Haunted Mansions. Hit us on the social medias.
What's your favorite?
What do you enjoy? Have you been on Haunted Mansion Holiday? Do you want to discuss Haunted Mansion Holiday? We'd love to discuss Haunted Mansion Holiday with you.
Signing off for the evening, this is Kristen.
And Brett.
Good night.
Thanks for listening.